records to hide what he'd done. Once discovered, the fallout was swift. In 2016, Counts Customs filed a lawsuit against Frontiera and against Randstad USA, the staffing agency that placed him at the shop, alleging inadequate background screening. The case became public and left fans stunned when the details emerged. Frontiera had already vanished from the show by that point, disappearing from episodes with no on-screen explanation. Since the lawsuit, he has essentially disappeared from public life altogether. No social media, no interviews, no further updates. The episode pushed Danny to tighten financial oversight at the shop, a lesson learned at significant cost. Scott Jones was part counting cars from his very first episode, serving as shop manager and handling much of the shop's budgeting, where Danny provided the creative vision. Scott was the one keeping spending in check, a role that regularly put him at odds with his boss on screen. Their contrasting styles, with Scott pushing back on costly ideas and Danny wanting to push the limits of each build, became a recurring source of tension and entertainment during the show's first 2 seasons. Then, without warning, Scott was gone after season 2. There was no farewell scene and no explanation offered on air, which fueled speculation among fans that he'd been fired over financial issues or some deeper conflict. None of those theories were ever confirmed. The real reason turned out to be far less dramatic. Scott relocated to Tennessee to be closer to family, a personal decision unrelated to any workplace drama. Since leaving the show, he stayed active in the automotive world, running his own business, Koker's Extreme Automotive, and even appearing on Netflix's Swap Shop. His exit may have been quiet, but his blunt, budget-conscious presence left a lasting impression on the show's early seasons. Few cast members were as beloved as Rolly Sabo, the shop's lead detailer from seasons 2 through 6. With his thick Hungarian accent, quick humor, and constant energy, Rolly brought levity to long workdays while maintaining a genuine perfectionist streak when it came to detailing every vehicle that left the shop. By season 4, he had become a certifiable fan favorite, frequently highlighted on social media for both his skill and his personality. Then, in 2017, thousands of dollars worth of detailing equipment went missing from the shop, and shortly afterward, Rolly disappeared from the show entirely, with no explanation given. Rumors circulated that the missing gear was connected to his departure, though Counts Customs never issued an official statement confirming any link. The lack of closure left many fans conflicted, unwilling to believe their favorite detailer could be involved in theft, while others were simply saddened by his abrupt and unexplained exit. Rolly has remained in Las Vegas since leaving the show, running his own business, Rock and Rolly Custom Detailing, where he continues the high-end detailing work that made him a standout on counting cars. Not every departure involved scandal. Shannon Ikaw, the show's lead motorcycle builder, was known less for his personality and more for the sheer quality of his craftsmanship. Calm, focused, and quietly skilled, he shaped some of the series' most memorable motorcycle builds without ever chasing the spotlight. As the show progressed into its later seasons, however, counting cars leaned increasingly into manufactured drama and stage conflict to boost ratings, a shift that didn't sit well with a craftsman like Shannon, who preferred letting his work speak for itself. Rather than adapt to the new format or cause any public friction, he simply stepped back. His screen time diminished gradually across seasons 7 and 8 until he faded out of the show entirely, with no dramatic goodbye or public statement. Shannon remains active in the Las Vegas motorcycle building scene, continuing to produce respected custom work under his own name. Unlike some other departures on this list, his exit is remembered as a matter of principle, a craftsman choosing authenticity over reality TV spectacle. Known to fans as Horny Mike for his signature horn helmet and wild mohawk, Mike Henry served as Counts Customs' lead airbrush artist, turning cars, motorcycles, and helmets into elaborate works of art. With a background in custom paint and 3D sculpting, he brought a creative flair that made him one of the show's most visually distinctive personalities. But that same creative ambition eventually put him at odds with Danny. Mike often wanted more freedom to push his designs further, while Danny, mindful of protecting the shop's brand, needed to keep the aesthetic more controlled. Compounding the friction was the simple reality of television production. Airbrush art requires patience and time, and the tight turnaround demanded by weekly episodes clashed with the nature of his craft. As the pressure mounted, Mike's screen time gradually decreased. He never had a Danny Koker turned a small Las Vegas garage into a television empire with counting cars. But the road to success wasn't always smooth. Behind the polished builds and easy camaraderie shown on screen, several employees left the shop under circumstances that stunned even the show's most devoted fans. Here's the story of Danny Koker's rise, and the 5 team members whose exits left a lasting mark on Count's Customs. Danny Koker was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but it was Detroit, Michigan, the beating heart of the American auto industry, where he spent most of his childhood. Muscle cars and car shows were simply part of daily life growing up there, and that atmosphere left a permanent impression on him. His father, Danny Koker Sr., was a professional musician who toured with well-known gospel groups, filling the family home with music. But the elder Koker was also a devoted car enthusiast, and he passed that love down to his son early on. As a teenager, Danny spent nearly all his free time working on vehicles, tearing into engines and restoring old cars rather than chasing typical teenage hobbies. His fascination with muscle cars, choppers, and hot rods only deepened with age. That passion wouldn't turn into a career overnight. In the early 1990s, Danny relocated to Las Vegas, where his interest in cars and showmanship began to merge. He became a minor local celebrity as Count Cool Rider, a campy, vampire-themed horror movie host on late-night television. It was theatrical and a little ridiculous, but it built him a loyal local following. Even while playing a rock and roll vampire on TV, Danny never drifted from cars. He launched Count's Customs, a shop originally meant just to maintain his personal vehicle collection. Word of his distinctive builds, bold paint jobs, low stances, and powerful engines spread quickly through the Vegas car community, drawing collectors and celebrities alike. Danny's national breakthrough came indirectly, through Pawn Stars. Because Count's Customs sat near the famous gold and silver pawn shop, Danny became a regular on-camera expert whenever the Pawn Stars crew needed advice on cars or motorcycles. Audiences responded well to his knowledge and personality, and producers saw an opportunity for a spin-off. Counting Cars premiered on the History Channel in 2012, following Danny and his crew as they restored and customized vehicles at Count's Customs. The show avoided manufactured drama in its early days, leaning instead on Danny's genuine enthusiasm and the tight-knit feel of the shop. By its 3rd season, it had become one of the most watched automotive shows on television, and Danny had transformed from a niche car customizer into a bona fide TV star. He also expanded his brand, opening Count's Vamp Rock Bar and Grill, a venue that let him combine his love of music and motorcycles. While the show made building and restoring cars look effortless, the reality inside Count's Customs was far messier. A single televised build, wrapped up in roughly 30 minutes of screen time, often represented weeks or even months of real labor, waiting on rare parts, disassembling and reassembling vehicles, repainting and testing engines until everything met Danny's exacting standards. He had little tolerance for shoddy work, and that perfectionism only added pressure to an already overworked crew. Success brought its own complications. What had once been a close-knit garage turned into a tourist destination, with fans showing up daily hoping for photos or a glimpse of the crew, often making it difficult for anyone to actually get work done. Fame also changed the dynamics among staff. Some team members grew more focused on camera time, credit, or compensation, and friction between former friends began to surface. Managing all of this fell largely on Danny's shoulders. Beyond the shop, he was juggling a bar business, branded merchandise, public appearances, and, eventually, a string of legal disputes with former employees over pay and treatment. New contracts had to be drawn up to protect the business and its image, adding a layer of formality to what had once been an easy-going operation. By the show's 3rd and 4th seasons, the crew looked noticeably different, though the series rarely explained why. Some departures were quiet. Others came only after serious conflict. Here are the 5 people whose exits stood out the most. Joseph Frontiera never appeared on camera, but his actions caused him the deepest damage in the show's history. As the company's bookkeeper, he was entrusted with payroll, bill payments, and overall financial oversight, a position built entirely on trust. That trust was broken. An internal review eventually revealed that Frontiera had siphoned off more than $75,000 from the business. He used company funds to cover a down payment on a Range Rover and to pay for personal travel, all while forging Danny's signature and fabricating.